Started. Yes, namaste and welcome everyone to today's webinar on yoga for total wellness. Of course, Hindu University of America is glad to have you on today. We've got a range of graduate division programs, continuing education division programs, and we hope you'll participate. And of course, yoga is such an important big part of Hinduism. And we know it's Hindu. It is connected integrally to the Sanatan Dharma, the whole Indic knowledge systems. And there's so many more layers to it than just asanas, right? The physical practice. And so in today's webinar is a presentation of the philosophy of existence according to yoga, right? The mechanism of communication among all entities in creation. We're going to all entities in creation and finding harmony in the communication, which provides total wellness to each being. So we're looking at it from a very high level with our guest today, Dr. Rajan Narayanan. So if you haven't yet, please put in the chat where you are zooming in from. We'll get started shortly. I see we've got Dillagi from Maryland. Glad to have you on. A regular Swami Tapani Diji from Tamil Nadu. Great to have you on. Shri Ranaji from Trinidad, probably Trinidad, even though it's Trinidad and Tobago. I know Trinidad is the island that most people live on. Soumya ji from the Bay Area, glad to have you on. Rashik and Jyotsna ji from Torrance, California. Thank you everyone from joining. Raj ji from Portland, Nalini ji from Orlando, Shrijansa ji, maybe that name in your Zoom, you can probably edit it. From Houston though, representing. Shrikanji from Colorado Springs, Sharaji from Houston, Texas. Is that Sharadaminji? I hope so. Glad to have you on. Yadavji from Columbus, Ohio. Ratnaji from Delaware. Awesome. Great to have so many people from around the country. Oh, still, if you want to put your name in the chat, please do. I'll try and give you a shout out. Jairo from Orlando. Glad to have you on. And let me introduce our speaker. If you want to put your name in the chat, I'll still give you a shout out. But we have with us today Dr. Rajan Narayanan, who's a former CIAYT chair and board and executive director of Life in Yoga Institute. The website is lifeinyoga.org. He was a secretary of the Council for Yoga Accreditation International. And we know the accreditation bodies themselves have issues and their challenges, but it's great to have Dr. Narayanan with us because he served in multiple roles in the service of yoga to the world, both involving presentation of yoga as a spiritual discipline coming from the Vedic system and the spirituality that is core to all religions of the world. And on one hand, he's a researcher who's created a system called Measured Yoga Therapy, MYT, that integrates scientific measurement systems with traditional medicine systems, which come from yogic wisdom. And in this process, he's demonstrated the ability to cure so-called incurable diseases, not as a random event, but as a predicted event with objective measurement of yogic applications, especially mantra vibrations. He's published in the National Library of Medicine, and his bio and accomplishments are long. He's also working towards creating teacher level and therapist level textbooks as well. His approach is fully anchored in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It is our pleasure to have him here today with Hindu University of America on our webinar of the week, talking about yoga total concepts. Dr. Narayana, I'm going to hand it over to you. We have a few more people in the chat who's dropped where they're zooming in from. Archana ji from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Ram Gupta ji, glad to have you on from Boston. Kashina ji from Goa. Amazing. Swami Paramatma ji from New Jersey. Glad to have everyone joining us today on this webinar with Dr. Narayanan. So I'm going to hand it over to you and let's get started.
Namaste everyone. I see even before I begin there is a question in the QA. Dr. Rajan, in many sites you're on, we never see the word Hindu. Why? Because the word Hindu doesn't exist. We are all in Sanatan Dharma. Hindu is a Western concept, right? So any case, so that now coming back, to begin with, Let's gather ourselves together with 3 ohms and then we will begin. And I'll share the screen as we go along here. And let's see. Okay. Let's begin with 3 ohms. Let's take a deep breath in. As I begin this session today, I would like to know if we have any physicians, doctors who are in our presentation, in which case you can put a note over there. In fact, what I can do is, if there is a way for you to have a show of hands, you can put in. Because if we are talking to doctors, then the language needs to be slightly different from normal people. So please let me know.
Yeah, you can put in the chat if you're a doctor, maybe what you're practicing, and or in the reactions, there's a button at the bottom of the screen that says reaction. You can raise your hand and we can do a quick count on how many doctors we have joining us today.
We have, yes, at least one person. Shri Jhansi. Okay, that's good. We have at least one doctor. That is helpful for me. So that way I can speak towards that also as we get along. Okay. So here you have the presentation. Hopefully all of you can view it. So yoga for total wellness. But then of course, this is really a presentation to promote our master class in yoga concepts that begins on October 28th. Now, this course on a master class in yoga concepts begins with Yoga Sutras, a detailed discussion over 4 sessions, each of 3 hours each. And there we talk about the principles of self-realization, nature of existence, importance of Swadharma, nature of moksha. These are the topics that come straight out of the Yoga Sutras. Then, in addition to this, we have 5 more sessions where we get into the mechanism of yoga. When we say mechanism of yoga, essentially the Pancha Pranas, the Nadi system, how it is applied in Ayurveda and healing systems, and how it is used for self-realization as well. Then we get into the power of breath, pranayama techniques, impact and benefits, and we do look at it from the Nadi system perspective, how each pranayama affects your Nadi system. And then we go into the Hatha Yoga and Tantra Yoga elements. Hatha Yoga elements most people are familiar with. Tantra Yoga may be a little bit different for people, but then, whether it is temple worship or any kind of spiritual practice you do is actually Tantra. What is the meaning of Tantra? Tanu trayeti iti Tantra. In other words, what enables you to go beyond the body. Tanu is the body. What takes you beyond the body is Tantra. And in fact, all of you are really using Tantra right now. You have your wireless phones. You have your wireless Wi-Fi, all of this for where you're connected. You have your remote for your cars or for your televisions and all of that. And what is happening is, without a physical connection, beyond that physical distance, you're connecting. That is the same concept of you think of something and you're able to go into that. And so that is the concept of Tantra. So the idea of power of intention, how you connect, all of these comes in the zone of Tantra, and that is the essential of the deeper level spiritual practices, whether it is meditation, pujas in temples, all of this is part of that. And of course, how, we have kept a separate lecture on meditation. Technically, meditation is part of Tantra Yoga, but we have kept it separately because there is a lot of scientific research related to it and how it is viewed in the world today. So that is the last of the five additional sections beyond the Yoga Sutras. So today's presentation is focused on wellness as the outcome of yoga, and our key focus is on mechanism. In other words, I'll give you a little bit of a glimpse of how in the nature of existence, how the mechanism of yoga promotes wellness by cosmic connectivity, and it is integral, it has the integral connection with Tantra Yoga as well. I'm also going to present for you, at least at a quick level, and if there are questions, we can do a demonstration too, no big deal, is about measurement. Measurement is not part of the masterclass in Yoga Concepts course, but it is something that we deal with in our measured yoga therapy training for people. If you want a demo or a glimpse at the end of our presentation, sure, and we will have a lot of time to answer many things, and I'm sure the physician over here, by Jhansi ji, may actually have an interest in this. Okay, so let's continue further. So what is this masterclass in Yoga Concepts about? The 9 lectures, I've already laid it out for you. The dates are all given over there. Everything is a weekend date, starting from October 28th, going all the way till December 16th. I do want to add something. I always keep the next Sunday after the last session as a bonus session if anybody has further questions or answers. So there will be a session on December 17th too, but it is going to be your question and answer session if you want it. And if you don't want it, that'll be fine. So who should attend this? Anyone who is interested in Yoga Concepts, of course. And the Yoga Concepts is the spiritual basis of everything you see in the Sanatan Dharma tradition. And those who have an interest in being trained as yoga therapists, this is the first module of our yoga therapy training. So what will you learn here? I've already given you the summary. Yoga Sutras of Patanjali provides the context into philosophy and principles of yoga and of entire the Sanatan Dharma system. And the most important element of it is to understanding the concept of existence and the concept of one's duty, our Swadharma. We are born for our Swadharma. And following that, we get into the mechanism and the various practice approaches. What is the optimal learning approach for this course that we have? Attendance, of course, is the good thing. And more important, it is asking questions. Only when you get asked questions, you learn. And there is nothing called a silly question, except when you're not paying attention and what has been already said, you go on and repeat because you are not focused over that. So other than that, there is no question that is a silly question. There will be video recordings, will be only available for our therapist trainees in this session because it's key for the therapy people. There will be 2 assigned readings, and it is best reviewed once ahead of the session. One is a textbook and the other is a PDF document which I will provide for this course. And the next is all the timings provided are above are the Eastern USA time. So from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And so people who are from the West Coast, it will be a little early in the morning. And for people who are from India, it will be reasonable time. So that is, and one other thing to notice, on November 5th, there will be a change in time. And that is the US going from daylight savings time to standard time. And when it moves into that time, it will change for people who are in other parts of the world where times don't change. So the course has Yoga Sutras, of course. And when we discuss the Yoga Sutra, we will talk about the chronology and the relationship to the Vedas. We will actually talk about the 6 traditional darshanas, the philosophical systems, last of which is Vedanta, and the precursor, just one before that, is Vedas, is Yoga Sutras. And of course, the first in the line of 6 is the philosophy of Kapila, that we know as the Sankhya philosophy. But we'll go through that and how they are all related with the yoga, by yoga as well as the Vedic system. The Yoga Sutra has 196 sutras in 4 chapters. They're divided into we call it as chapters, but the technical word it is called is padas or quarters, because it is really, the Yoga Sutra is like one essay with 4 sections in it. And you can understand the first section, the first pada is an introductory overview where the problem and solution are presented in a brief overview. And then after that, the second and third pada get into detailed explanation, the analysis method, experiences, solution, etc. And the last pada is a summary overview. The Yoga Sutra is entirely written for the audience who is the single person who is the seeker of their own personal spiritual experience, to understand who am I, what is this existence all about, and to understand all of this for that individual person. It's written as a guide for the individual person. But then once you have experienced it or whatever, Patanjali Muni, who is the author of the Yoga Sutras, he also gives a summary overview of the nature of creation and the nature of God. Ishvara, as is actually, there are a few other words. Prabhu is another word that is used, and even the word Sattva Purusha is used in the context of God. So keeping that in mind, now after the Yoga Sutra has been fully discussed line by line, and we go into the practice of yoga elements. The most important element in the practice of yoga is the mechanics and observing safety. Here we talk about the Pancha Prana and the Nadi system, and within the yogic system and even in the higher elements of traditional medicine system, which to some degree has gotten lost these days, is the difference between left and right. And then how one attains samadhi, all of this from a mechanics perspective. Then we get into the simple breathing practices that most of you are aware of. And of course, there's a chapter by chapter, we go through the whole list of the major ones. And the power of breath is it drives what is called the Mukhya Prana. In the Pancha Prana, prana of the Pancha Prana is the Mukhya Prana. What is the physiology and the metaphysics that are associated with it? Then we get into Hatha Yoga. And here we talk about the chronology, text, principles, physiology, and safety. While many of you might have been exposed to yoga from yoga studios, if you go into the core documents of Hatha Yoga Pradipika and the Gheranda Samhita, and then you will find that perhaps the Hatha Yoga you have learned and what the texts say, there may be some differences. Then we get into Tantra Yoga, that is going beyond the physical body, the essence of all religious observances and meditation. And that will give a lot of insight into many practice and what we do. And of course, as I've already explained, the meditation aspect is we divide between, in modern day research, they talk about mindfulness meditation and transcendental meditation and the influence in modern times and research. In fact, many of our practices are mindfulness, but they are in religious elements, but they have an additional element that actually makes it transcendental. It is called avahan. What is the meaning of avahan or invocation is a very important tantric concept that we will also discuss in the course. An example of Tantra Yoga that is not well understood is, here is a temple in Delaware, in the United States, the Mahalakshmi Devasthanam temple over there. And you can see the entrance to the temple is in one place, whereas on the other hand, the main entry to the temple is in a completely different orientation. I ask the people sometimes, why is the temple built in such a way it's not even facing the entrance? The reason is Tantra configuration, Tantra Shastra configuration has different orientations associated with different kinds of energies. The sun rising in the east energizes us to do our swadharma. So when the temple faces the east, that is considered the dharmic orientation. The opposite considered vairagya. And particularly in Kerala, you'll find some Bhagavati temples that are facing the west. And that is where, before people, warriors go into battle, that is where they go so that they have vairagya to go and fight. They don't worry about their life. And many of you have heard of the concept of Dakshinamurti, that is facing south. And that is what provides jnana, knowledge, or we talk about knowledge, the supreme knowledge, jnana. And then, of course, the opposite of that is Aishwarya. You can quickly relate to it from a modern sense. The researcher is interested in jnana, and the businessmen commercialize it, and that's where Aishwarya comes. So you can quickly see the relationship. Now, the other Tantra Yoga understanding of rituals and observances you see in so many different places, whether prayers, the Sandhyavana practice, walking barefoot in temples, offering of prasad, observation of upavasa, offering to ancestors, the connection between Rik, Rita, Ritu and Rishi, the role of priest, all of this are in the zone of Tantra Yoga. Once you understand that, the real concept of yoga, you can relate to all of these together. Our textbook is Yoga Concepts for Global Application, a primer for beginners and instructors, a textbook for those seeking deeper understanding of yoga. This is a publication of the Council for Yoga Accreditation International, and we have 5 authors, and I am the lead author over there. So the key distinction of the Masterclass in Yoga Concepts course is it's an integrated understanding of philosophy, science, and religion, and an example of the wellness that comes from it is presented for you today, just as an example. So wellness is the outcome of yoga, and how is it presented? It addresses the mechanism of yoga, the nature of existence, philosophy of yoga, the role of dharma coming from the philosophy of yoga, attitude towards living coming from the philosophy of yoga. And today we have a little bit of a bonus, that is the scientific measurement tools, a glimpse of it. This is not in the course. This is the first module, as I said, of the measured yoga therapy training program we have. And so in the next course, we do measured yoga therapy part 1. We do all of the measurement. We begin with one of the measurement techniques. So coming to the yogic understanding of wellness, the general understanding of wellness for most people is it's physical and mental. If you talk today to people who are in the medical world, they will talk about mental wellness and physical wellness. For a long time, and even today, most of the doctors are engaged and they look upon your body like a machine, and they are always focused on physical wellness. But of course, they also realize, but they never tell you, and people don't well realize, is that while the body parts we have may be well understood, each person is a different person. People who understand holistic medicine understand you never treat a disease, you treat the person with the disease. So what happens is, today, of course, people are beginning to understand mental wellness drives even physical wellness. So the mental wellness concept people talk about is peace within. But from a yogic and our Sanatan Dharma perspective, we always say there can be no mental or physical wellness without spiritual wellness. And that is the focus of yoga. And what does it? There are 2 elements that go with it. And you have heard of it time and time again from the various other presentations or texts you must have seen. Being true to one's conscience. What is the meaning of being true to one's conscience? Doing your swadharma, being true to the purpose for which you have been born. Second is letting life flow without taking the stress of doership. And that is what Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna tells us all the time. Do your duty, but don't be affected by the results. So this is the essence of yoga, the spiritual wellness, and that is what drives, it sustains mental and physical wellness. So this is the key difference of our concept of wellness that comes from yoga and the Sanatan Dharma system, which is one and the same. So the yoga view of spiritual nature of creation begins from Ishvara, God, Sattva Purusha, whatever name you want to call, the zone of creator. From there, a subtle world is the first creation is called Prakriti. I don't know how many people know that in Sanskrit, when you use the word pra as a prefix, it stands for Prakrishta. Prakrishta Kriti. Kriti means anything that is composed. Those of you who know Carnatic music, they always call a music composition as a Kriti. So Prakrishta Kriti. What is the meaning of Prakrishta? That which is integrated with the source of everything. And similarly, you have often heard the word prajna or pragyan as opposed to vigyan or simply jnana. So the concept of prajnana is the higher knowledge that is connected into the cosmic awareness that comes from the intuitive connectivity in samadhi, prajnana. You can call it as the deeper intuition. So Prakriti first creates something. Actually, what I have over here comes from the Sankhya philosophy, which I have added in. The yoga philosophy simply says, from that one cosmic chitta of Prakriti are created many small chittas. Eka chitta anekesham. That is one of the sutras that will come in the fourth pada of the Yoga Sutras. But then the one before that, this actually comes from the Sankhya philosophy, where the first chitta that is created by Prakriti is actually called Vasudeva. That is the name given in the Sankhya. So the chitta is nothing but a processor. And we have to all remember, a processor has no intention of its own. Your computer processor takes input, runs it through whichever program you choose, and throws out the output. It has no intention of its own. So Prakriti runs the program through the cosmic chitta, and it creates many small chittas like each one of us, everything that is animate and inanimate. And each chitta is assigned a certain level of the program element of Prakriti. So in other words, our chitta is chitta with associated programs that are running with us. In the yoga system, we call it as kleshas and karmas. Of course, in the Vedantic system, you refer to as vasanas and sanskaras and karmas and all of those. So that each individual system, all of this is in a plane that is outside the three-dimensional world. So this is the place where each one of us are before we are born, and that is where people go when they leave the body. So out of this subtle plane of zone B, as we call it, emerges subtle body vibrations. Subtle vibrations, and these are in the electromagnetic frequency. And that electromagnetic frequency permeates and creates the gross body. So you can understand that electromagnetic frequency is the one that starts off the creative process in the womb, and that is what enables the growth of the body. And that is how every cell within you is formed, because of the vibrations that enable it to do. And those vibrations are guided by the programs that come from the chitta that is in the higher plane. And so the electromagnetic vibration of the subtle body and the gross body are in the physical world. And whereas on the other hand, the unique element of your individual chitta is that while it is connected with Prakriti and has come out of Prakriti and is carrying the programs allocated to it, its karmas and kleshas from a yoga perspective, it has an individual and different connection right into Ishvara. And this is what is called Chetana in yoga. So inanimate elements do not have that direct connection with Ishvara. So in yoga we say, when the second sutra in the Yoga Sutras is Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. In other words, we'll discuss more what Nirodha means and the subtle elements of it when we get into the Yoga Sutras. But the key thing is, once the activation of the chittas with all the program running through it is temporarily stopped, then in which case it becomes aware of its connection with Ishvara, and that becomes the source of building your knowledge base, or your Atma Jnana, as we say. So with that as the structure of the nature of existence, what we do is, what did I do? Okay. With that as the nature of a structure of existence, Our spiritual element is sitting in our chitta, our mental in our vibrational plane, and then of course the physical in the gross plane. While we say vibrational plane mental, I like to make it a little more. It can be measured by electromagnetic frequency. The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Well, I like the word social well-being because that is what is the indicator of Swadharma for which each person is born. Now let's get a little brief view of the mechanism. It is only a glimpse. That is, in the Nadi system, in the spiritual yogic view, there are 5 types of communications going on. I want to again reiterate that it is communication that is going on. People often refer to as energy, but energy is only that which moves the communication, but it is, I prefer the word communication. So prana is the communication that runs along the spine and brain. Physiologically, it is the central nervous system. That is what regulates your daily, every moment, whatever you're breathing, as well as the circulation. It also impacts the pumping of your heart, and together it is basically circulating the nutrients in the body, the glucose and the oxygen that is needed for every cell to survive, the cellular respiration. Then, and of course, if there is no prana over there, nothing else works. You can understand when a person is dead, they say the prana is gone. And so the concept, modern concept of being brain dead, defined as dead and all of that. Then there is the samana vayu, and it flows along the sushumna nadi. In the yogic system, it is said that the samana vayu running through the sushumna nadi is impacted by 2 other nadis called the ida and pingala nadis. Ida is your inner dimension, and pingala is the outer dimension, the transaction with the external world. So the ida is the left side, which is within, and the right side that transacts with the world, and that is why you use your right hand to transact, and people are all taught to transact with their right hand right from the time when they are when people are children. In any case, today we can understand the samana vayu is nothing but a representation of what is called gene expression today. The genes are your inner dimension, and the external elements that impact it are called epigenetic factors, and when they both come together, what comes out is what is called the gene expression that happens every moment at every cell as you are living through it. Now, the third nadi, that is a very important nadi, is generally not referred in yoga texts, and this is part of the spiritual experience that is discussed in the higher elements of yoga. It is called the Atma Nadi. And of course, it is very much, in the Vedic system, it is very much there. And that carries the Udana Vayu, or the cosmic communication that goes beyond. Now, what you see, it is running along the front of the body, and it comes right at the navel, takes a turn, goes to the spine, and then comes into the sacrum bone, and it projects out into the pubic area. So this is where we have our cosmic connections, and the siddhi abilities are all related over there. Where you see the red star, that is where we have our cosmic transmitter. And those of you who know the Vedas, in the Vedas there is a hymn called the Narayana Suktam that starts with Sahasra Shirisham Devam Vishwaksham Vishwashambhuvam. Like that it goes, Vishwam Narayanam Devam Aksharam Paramam Padam. That one, as you continue with it, it talks about Adho Nishtya Vitasyante Nabhyam Uparitishtati Jwalamala Kulam Bhati Vishwasyayatanam Mahat. That is the description of the star. Adho means downward facing. Nishtya, from the Adam's apple. Vitasyante is the stretch between when you spread out your hand from the tip of the thumb to the little finger. Adho nishtya vitasyante nabhyam upari, above the nabhi, tishtati, stays there. Jwalamala kulam bhati vishwasyayatanam mahat. In other words, Jwalamala kulam refers to concentric rings of fires. Kulam bhati vishwasyayatanam mahat. So the importance of it can span the entire universe. In other words, it's a description of a transmitter. So any case, and then the other, the Apanavayu is considered you see the Samanavayu running through the middle along the Sushumna Nadi. There are the 7 chakras over there that are normally described. From the chakras, particularly the lower 5 chakras, there are connection into every part of the body, and those connections that control the musculoskeletal system are the Apanavayu, and those that connect into the fluid systems of the body is called Vyana. And of course, in conventional Ayurveda, coming from the spiritual dimension, there is a reductionism. In the reductionism, the way it is presented is, Apana is considered everything in the lower part of the body associated with excretion, and the Samanavayu is considered the navel area and related to digestion. And above the navel area, to the in the chest area is considered Pranavayu, and in the head is considered Udanavayu. That's a reductionism, and that is not the higher spiritual understanding of Ayurveda. And then, of course, in the Ayurveda, Yoga Ayurveda Nadi system, they measure with 3 fingers, the Vata, Pitta, Kapha. They distinguish between your Prakriti and your Vikriti, your true nature and your how you have deviated from it. And when the deviation is there, there is the dosha. And dosha, of course, creates disorders in the body and mind system, because you're not in sync with the purpose of your life, you're not in sync with your cosmic chitta, you're not in sync with your swadharma. And so the same thing can be measured today with what is called electrophotonic imaging. And how we read it in the nadis is by putting each finger right into an electromagnetic field, we are able to get the aura of the fingertips. And based on the Chinese medicine concept of different meridians for affecting different parts of the body, we are able to assess about 40 different organ systems, how well they are functioning and where the disorders may exist. Functionally, it is the same as the 3-finger measurement, and experienced Ayurvedic doctors can, by looking at the rules of thumb related to how they see the distinction between the Prakriti and Vikriti, are able to zone in on the which organ system is deficient. This, of course, directly because of the electrophotonic imaging and the looking at the lights in the pixel and the pattern of it, we are able to quickly tell which organ system directly we can get into it. So now we go into the higher yogic model of Tantra. Remember, the conversation is about wellness. And so I'm only focused on the wellness element over here. So the higher element of Tantra is we reach out right to the individual chitta. Now, this may seem a little interesting for you. Can we reach that particular body that is outside the 3-dimensional world and assess you over there? Well, those of you who are doing Shraddha for your ancestors, by whatever you're doing here, you're giving it to them. And when you do a havan, a homa over there, and you're propitiating whatever devas, that is where you're trying to reach. So, we have a scientific system where we are able to reach beyond that, and it is called the Metatron. So this machine over here, all I need is a hair from you and that box you see over there, and that box I have right over here if you want to see the physical box. If I open the box, inside that, if I put one hair from you or any DNA element of yours in there, then in which case I can actually read from that everything about your organ systems going down to your DNA, your chromosome. And for example, I can look to see how each part of your head over here, the right side of your head, how they are communicating with the cosmic spirit of yours. Similarly, I can look at the coronary arteries in your heart to see how it is connecting with the cosmic spirit of yours. I can look even for the physician over here, this is the astrocytes, that is the glial cells that form the nerves in the brain. You can go right and look into the glial cells too. And so this is the degree with which we can go with scientific measurements. So finally, all this about wellness is being in sync with our cosmic plan, with our spirit. That is how wellness comes from. And we understand, we always say in the Sanatan Dharma explanation, in the yogic explanation, that learning to live life as an instrument of the cosmic flow is what brings us total wellness. And of course, being true to one's conscience, we use the word dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. And then we talk about letting life flow, that is, without taking the stress, duty without attachment. Caring without attachment is the nature of our living, or the nature of our living for spiritual wellness. And that, of course, gives us the mental and physical wellness, because the spiritual wellness guides us towards how we should lead our life and how we should respect our physical being and be in good health. So, of course, that in turn tells you the importance of the meditative connectivity, which is what spiritual wellness is all about. And that is nothing but Tantra in action, going beyond the body and connecting to the higher domain. So in our system, we do get various crutches to enable our yogic connectivity. And of course, when you reach the highest, you throw away all the crutches. The crutches with which you work are all part of the Sanatan Dharma. The clothing you wear, the lighting of a lamp, the gems, crystals, rudrakshas, all of that you use. The role of time and space, jyotish, the concept of shapes and things like that. The important element of invocation, avahana, as we call it, the grace of God, the role of priests, and these kinds of things. Of course, all of this is there in the book over there, discussed at deep level. The role of worship, the priest as a conduit, how do you do individual cleansing practices that clears the nadi. So all of this is in the zone of Tantra, how to enable the connectivity into the cosmic being. We have to be very clear. Connectivity and intent have different roles. In the higher elements of yoga, we say there is something called the pure sankalpa. The pure sankalpa means the sankalpa is to reflect the cosmic plan, our swadharma. So we keep the mind away from it. If you bring the mind and you start doing sankalpa for your desires, that is a very different element from the pure sankalpa. So establishing connectivity is one thing, and the intent, allowing the cosmic intent to flow through you, is the key element in order to enable swadharma to flow without creating karmas. So the 6 lifestyle observances for total wellness that you can all consider following is essentially, it is described in the Yoga Sutras as yama and niyama. That is regularity in living with self-awareness, being true to conscience. I would call being true to conscience is yama, and regularity in living is the niyama. That is what takes you there. And in fact, even the Yoga Sutra says it's finally the niyama that takes you. One of the elements of niyama is Ishvara Pranidhana, which is what leads you finally to the higher elements of samadhi, even though the other elements of the Ashtanga Yoga come in after that. So the a few things that you can observe is, probably many of you have heard some of your older folks tell you from time to time, sit with your spine straight. Don't have an arch of your spine. Don't bend. So that is a spinal alignment is a critical element, because that enables the prana, the mukhya prana, to flow well. So you have good vitality to address whatever is needed in order to fulfill your swadharma. Next is smooth breathing. What is the meaning of smooth breathing? It means breathing is not irregular or hurried. If there is irregularity in the breathing, it means there is a disturbed state of the mind. So when we learn to be a pure instrument of the cosmic flow, we don't do things, we let things happen. And when we let things happen, the breath is smooth and slow. Next element is make sure you have full sleep. And of course, for smooth breathing, there are practices in yoga that we do to develop that smooth breathing and be aware of the breathing. Third element is the full sleep. We should never ever wake up with alarm, except if you have to catch a plane. And of course, if people want to be religious and make sure they want to wake up early and observe various things, you better go to sleep early. But the key part is you should not wake up from sleep without full sleep in a natural way when you wake up. Otherwise, over a period of time, your immunity gets compromised from a medical sciences perspective. And what we say is, when we have full sleep in deep sleep, that is when our Udana is activated and we connect into the cosmic spirit to get our daily dose of antivirus and program updates, which includes our understanding of our Swadharma. So proper eating is extremely important in the sense you eat only when you are hungry, and when you are not hungry, you don't eat. And of course, one of the things is, if it's time for a meal or whatever, first consume a little bit of water or something like that. And if you take a sip of water, if the hunger is stimulated, then you eat. If hunger is not stimulated, you don't eat. So a little bit of liquid may be helpful. But otherwise, if you eat without hunger, then it will not digest well and will cause improper elements within the system. The other thing is, you should never eat anything because somebody else tells you it's good for you. It is said, whatever you like, only that will get digested in the system. Of course, whatever you like when you're in a calm state of mind. When you're in a state of mind with a lot of stress, you will have sugar cravings to feed the stress. But then if you're in a calm state of mind, you should eat whatever you feel like and whatever appeals to you. The period of observing a period of inner connection, particularly in the morning, is extremely important. I tell people that when they wake up in the morning, the first hour of the morning, there should be no agenda in the mind, no thinking. You just let things download it within you. Your inner inspirations, whatever our guidances, will automatically come into you, and that prepares you for the rest of the hours. So it's a good idea to wake up 2.5 hours to 3 hours before you need to get to work and things on a daily basis. Another one which is ritually we observe is what is called the Sandhya Vandana practice. And the last element is being mindful of the company you keep. If the company you keep creates vibrations, and making sure you're in the right vibration is very helpful. So if you're in the wrong company, then it will guide you into unwanted practice in the affluent society that we live in. And when people have a lot of affluence and do not have proper guidance from within, that's when they go to alcohol and drugs and wild parties. Now, the holistic approach, practice approach that we have combines, we do this on a daily basis. There is a free online yoga session that is also streamed on YouTube that you can go to lifeinyoga.org and you can attend daily. There is a morning session at 7 a.m. Eastern time and at 5:30 in the afternoon session. And the afternoon session is more geared towards people who have limited abilities. So it is fully chair-based yoga that people can do. It has chakra vibrations coming from the Tantra, a Tantra yoga element for spiritual integration, Ujjayi pranayama for stimulating the peripheral nervous system, and the spinal alignment with and without mantras. When it is done with vibrations, it is even more powerful. We are very big users of mantras and vibrations. Balancing and energizing with alternate nostril breathing as well as the Bhastrika pranayama. Nadi Shodhana pranayam and Bhastrika pranayam. And then, of course, meditative observation. And that too can be done with mantras. So this is what I gave you a glimpse of the deeper elements of the mechanics of how we approach our course, Masterclass in Yoga Concepts. And we think it's a very unique course. Nothing like that we think exists in the world, and that's why we thought we had to do this. So if you would like to register for the course, you will have the links and all of that provided from Hindu University of America. And the textbook for the course is available through Amazon. So you can go and look for the word Yoga Concepts for Global Application. There are two versions available. The paperback version, which is a little cheaper, that is that has a 12-point font, and there is another hardcover book available, and that has 13.5 points, 13.5 points font. The page numbers are identical, but the hardcover is slightly bigger, and so the page is a little bit more expanded. So it is easier for people who would like a little larger font for reading. So what do viewers say about our textbook? I found this very interesting. I don't know how many of you have heard of Yogacharya Ananda Bhavanani from Pondicherry. So he writes, this is an excellent compilation of what yoga truly is. And why is it he says truly is? Because he himself is a practitioner of the Tantra elements of yoga. In a world that has confused yoga with asana, it is indeed a refreshing breeze of noble thoughts that percolate through every page of this in-depth exploration of the culture of yoga. Attention to great detail is found in each and every line, and the numerous illustrations add clarity to the teachings. I congratulate the team of CYI for putting together this much needed and valuable addition to educational resources in modern yoga. Dr. Sundara Kulkarni, who is one of our practitioners, we asked her to review the book. She is well versed, but coming through Chinmaya mission and all of that, she is well versed in Vedanta concepts. She writes, the sequential and appropriate dissection for proper understanding of Patanjali Yoga Sutras is commendable. The flow of knowledge is exciting and understandable to even an amateur on this difficult subject. I particularly enjoyed the chapters on collective consciousness, how you have shown the connection to various religious practices to yoga and Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. The questions to ponder at the end of each chapter are very interesting and very educational, as it is meant to be. Because the textbook, we have questions at the end of each chapter. Now, you see, other authors have said furthermore, Dr. Hansaji Yogendra, who is the current president of Indian Yoga Association, writes, Yoga Concepts for Global Application offers an accessible and riveting path into the science of yoga for beginners. Comprehensive and practical, it is a valuable resource for anyone who wants to understand and adopt the principles of yoga. I urge all of you to discover a new purpose and a new energy within yourself through the pages of this book. None other than an Islamic scholar, and he may well become the next president of Libya. He writes, Dr. Arif Ali Nayad writes, this book meets the three requirements of a great book. It is based on solid foundation, like authentic foundational texts or credible research evidence. Second, it approaches from the principles that create openness to understand, to accept new findings and possibilities. Third, it is also focused on helping humanity. The trifold impact makes it a very valuable text. Now, people who understand Sanatana Dharma will appreciate an extraordinary statement that was made by a great seer who comes from the Sanatan Dharma tradition. I don't know how many of you may know about somebody who is often referred to as Paramacharya of the Shankaracharya from the Kanchi Pitha. His name was Chandrasekhara Saraswati. And so this person, he is no more. There was a Christian person who went to him one time, and he was very impressed. And he went and asked him, Swamiji, can you guide me on how to advance in my spirituality? And he would like to become a Hindu. So the Swamiji told him, by being a good Christian, you become a good Hindu. This is the message of Sanatan Dharma. So when we see the universality of Sanatan Dharma, we find it within ourselves to be able to see the spirituality in every religion. However, that may not be the reverse. But we don't need to argue about it. But the key part is Sanatan Dharma. That is why we call that as the universal truth. That others who are open-minded will find their place within Sanatan Dharma. And then Dr. Dilip Sarkar says over here, he is the former president of International Association of Yoga Therapists. One of the unique features of this book is that it emphasizes that meditative practices are the higher pathway of yoga, and the need for a holistic approach to yoga, which considers the physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of the practice. This approach is particularly relevant in today's world, where people are seeking holistic solutions to their health and well-being. Overall, yoga concepts for global application, a primer for beginners and instructors, is a valuable resource for anyone interested in understanding the deeper aspects of yoga and how it can be applied in today's globalized world. So this particular book is focused on the spiritual connection and not merely a set of practices. And it focuses that the real higher dimension of yoga is not essentially physical, but in the higher realm of vibrations and connection into the cosmic plane. It is anchored on the ancient texts of the Yoga Sutras, and the yoga philosophy does not require rituals and beliefs because it is essentially experiential. So if you are able to follow the single element that Patanjali says is learning to be an observer and not being affected by things, slowly your inner dimension will validate the veracity and the truth of the Vedas as well as the Yoga Sutras. And by the way, the Vedantic system and the Yoga Sutras are completely one-on-one, and this is the reason Vyasa, who is who developed the Vedanta philosophy in the Brahma Sutras, he is not known to have written commentaries on any text except on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and his commentary is it establishes the parity with Vedanta. And finally, of course, yoga elements can be scientifically measured even at the spiritual dimension, as I was saying, and probably most of you don't even know about it. And we view yoga should be viewed as basic education. That is just like reading, writing, and arithmetic when people go to school, and that is why in India, yoga is now becoming part of every school. And meditative practices are the higher pathways of yoga. This is where these are the elements where the book is a little unique and different. And it is divided into 9 segments. What is yoga? 7 chapters provide an overview of yoga. The power of breath in yoga is the second. The Hatha Yoga, Tantra Yoga approach to yoga, the source of all knowledge in yoga, meditative approaches to yoga, integrative understanding of yoga in daily life, functional ethical requirements in leading a yoga class, and conclusion, because the functional ethical requirements relate to people who are training over here. The chapters unfold as follows. Understanding the nature of yoga is the spiritual quest of humanity. Application of yoga, how it applies into everything in every part of your personal life as well as the entire cosmos, how it affects global warming, how your thought affects various practices. When there is not enough rain, they do yajna, and the power of thought can affect weather, and but only for yogis, not other people. History of the systematic development of yoga, how it is connected with the Vedic system. Becoming an instructor in yoga, how you can do it safely. The underlying mechanism of all yoga approaches is the most critical chapter in the first section of what is yoga. That is where all the mechanism elements that we went through in brief, in much deeper level, you will see over there. Yoga for special groups and conditions is noted particularly for seniors, children, pregnant women, and things like that. Growing awareness by yoga for an instructor is actually you can say a translation of the Bhriguvalli from the 3rd chapter of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which speaks about the 5 levels of awareness: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. So it gives that translation of that. And the power of breath in yoga is first is introduction to the power of breath, the physiology dimension of it, and then we get into Nadi Shodhana Pranayama and the all the Ujjayi Pranayama, Bhastrika, Dirgha Shwasa, Bhramari, Kapalbhati, and then we put in as other breathing practices, because many of you know from the Hatha Yoga system, the Nadi Shodhana Pranayama is treated separate from the 8 other pranayamas, which are technically called kumbhakas in the Hatha Yoga system. Anyway, So but in all of these, not only the physiology dimension, but also the metaphysics of it is discussed over there wherever the elements are clear. In the Hatha Yoga system, we speak about how to do it safely, understanding anatomy and physiology, introduction to Hatha Yoga, asanas, the Shat Kriyas and Shat Karma, the pranayama overview, mudras and bandhas as they come from the Hatha Yoga system. In the Hatha Yoga system, of course, the spiritual dimension goes into the later chapters of the conventional texts of asanas and the Hatha Yoga Pradipika and the Gernda Samhita, and there the higher elements, you come across such words as Laya Yoga, Manonmani and things like that, but those are covered in the Tantra Yoga elements also, so we have not paid great attention to it because it's an introductory book that will be there in the teacher level book that will be coming next. Tantra approach to yoga, the concept of Tantra and its application, it is so simple as any remote device is an expression of Tantra, but when you're able to do it from your physical body, that is the higher level of Tantra. The Kundalini Yoga system, Tantra is integral to yoga, the concept of Prana Kriya. And in all of these, we also bring in the concept of Kashmir Shaivism, and that is explained over there. The chakra vibration practice that we do, the source of knowledge of yoga, how you get into samadhi, and how through the samyama process that is described in the third pada of the Yoga Sutras, how you can become a wise person and knowing, have the ultimate realization of yoga. And the meditative approaches to yoga, introduction to meditation, and the approach of meditation approach for deeper. By the way, in the introduction to meditation, we go through the medical research or the physiological research that have been done, and then of course in the medical approach for deeper relaxation, that is what we call as the mindfulness meditation approach. And then the meditation approach for cosmic connectivity is the transcendental meditation approach, and how people can begin building a meditation routine in daily life. And then the integrative understanding of yoga in daily life talks about the role of group effect and collective consciousness in yoga, and now you can understand why the concept of satsanga and the role of temples is very important. Bhakti yoga and the role of religious practice yoga, we get into that. Yoga and non-religious practices, integrative health for yoga, from yoga, role of yoga in global environment and socio-economic balance, functional and ethical requirements. So yoga is only for people who are going into the teaching elements. And the conclusive chapter, actually in 4 pages, it is a full summary of everything that is there in the book. And then we have appendices over there for various practices which may be helpful for you, along with the pranayama section, the part 2, power of breath section, where the breathing practice are all delineated, as well as in the Tantra Yoga section, the chakra vibrations and some of the practices, and of course chapter 31, the building of meditative routine and practice. Those are all places where it gives you practice guidance as well. So if you want to register for this course, you can actually, you have the link right over there. And in fact, if you click on the link, where it takes you over here is, you will see it takes you into the Hindu University of America website, and you can go and register for the course over here. If you have any problems connecting over there, I'm sure you will have a Hindu University person who can actually help you over there. But what I can also do is, if you want to connect over here in the chat box, I will put my email address for you. And my email address is very simple: narayanan@lifeinyoga.org. So you can send an email to me, and we will help you to go and find a place, this thing. Okay, so now we were right over here. Okay, so now we are essentially done, and so we are open, thank you, and open for questions. So Ankur, is it possible to promote people into the panelists so that people can feel free to discuss?
Yeah, I can allow people to unmute and ask their question with their own voice if they'd like. I also dropped a link to the masterclass in yoga concepts in the chat window if you want to click and see that.
Yes.
Um, Raj in the Q&A box says this course is also suitable for the elderly who are total novices and ignorant about yoga. If you have questions or comments,
Absolutely. The course is suitable for the elderly because remember, the key thing is the yoga is not like what you're thinking of asana on a yoga mat. The higher dimension of yoga is all about connectivity beyond the body. And the asanas and pranayamas are less than 10% of yoga. They may be helpful building blocks, but again I say they may be helpful building blocks because what happens is as people become older, they become more purified by fulfilling their karmas in as part of living. And once they fulfill the karmas, that is the reason, because they are more purified, people as they age generally have greater wisdom and greater connectivity. And because of this greater connectivity, the people often will go and take blessings from elders, right? So people who are older, this is completely ready for you. The philosophical aspects and how they integrate with the religious and scientific aspects will be very appealing to you.
great, great. Please put your questions in the Q&A box. That was a wonderful presentation, right? I loved the whole arc of covering so many different concepts in such a short period of time. The six, things that we should be doing to improve really hits home, and I love having that in one slide. Let me just launch a quick poll, get engagement or interest in the course. If you're interested in enrolling in the masterclass in yoga concepts, you can just let us know yes, maybe, no. Helps us do the follow-up. Great. We have a couple questions coming in. RD is asking the chair yoga sessions. Where can we find them? That's at
Oh,
the website, right?
yes, actually, let me give them the link. That link will probably the easiest way to go. Uh,
All right. Glad to share that with everyone.
okay, so I'll post the link right over here. So okay,
Right.
the chat box is it somewhere here or did it disappear?
It can
No,
become
chat box is
hidden.
right here. It's right here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Don't.
so oh, something. Right here, chat box over here. So this is the Zoom link for the daily yoga, the chair yoga. Now, it is also available on streaming on YouTube. And for that one, you have to go to Life in Yoga Rajan and uh, in YouTube, and you can ask for daily online yoga and it'll show you.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. We have a couple other questions. Hyro, sorry if I'm saying it wrong, is asking what's a beginner meditation practice? How do people get into meditation? Maybe broadly, if you can just talk about the steps.
Sure. One of the for most people who are beginners, when they sit for meditation, their mind is too active. They are unable to sit quietly. So, a very good meditation practice is what is called walking meditation. And in this walking meditation, you keep your awareness on your breath. And of course, you have to walk in a place where there is not too much traffic, a quiet place, and some place where if you put the feet, you wouldn't put your foot into a hole or a ditch or a fall off kind of thing. No barriers there. So if you're walking in a place that is without any impediments, and without too much traffic, quietness, you keep your eyes glued to the path where you're walking. You don't look to the left and right, and you keep your awareness in your breath with like 2 or 3 breaths. You inhale with 2 or 3 strides, and you exhale with 4 or 5 strides. You don't need to make an effort to work too much towards how many strides, with how many strides you're inhaling and exhaling. But once you keep the awareness in the breath, it will naturally build in, where you're inhaling with a certain number of strides, and then you will exhale with slightly more number of strides, because exhalation is always, it happens naturally. With inhalation, there is a little effort. What we call inhalation is active and exhalation is passive. So it will naturally, when you're relaxed, it will be a little bit longer than inhalation. So that is a good walking meditation, is a good beginner's meditation practice.
Nice. Shilpa and Sana Sawant are 18. Can you also join? I think so. There's no real age
Absolutely.
limits, and it's for a
Absolutely.
range of people, from beginner to even experts, depending on how you want to engage. And if you want to talk about that briefly.
Namely, how young people can get engaged?
Yeah, young people and the range of people can be involved,
See,
wherever you're at.
see, what happens is, from what I look at this audience over here, they are all looking to understand what exactly is yoga and how to relate it with their culture, right? So in other words, what is happening is, for younger people, as we go through what is the nature of existence, why are we over here, those questions get answered in the Yoga Sutras. And then you begin to understand the nuances within. But of course, the nuances are a little more difficult for people to understand. But then as we get into it, out of that comes why it is we do what. Like, why do we always, people say, transact with the right hand, right? So these kinds of things, as we learn the inner dimension of the mechanism of yoga, they become apparent. And remember, there is one thing I wanted to tell you. The courses we run are not presentations. In fact, when we do our courses, it is not done the way Ankur did, but which is very efficient for a presentation. Everybody comes on to the panelists. And what happens is, for every 3 to 5 minutes of presentation, I pause over there for people to interact. So the real learning comes from question answers. So I encourage people right from the beginning in our courses, this is not a presentation, it is not a monologue, it's an interactive session. So by asking question in your own frame of reference, that's how you begin to learn. So whether you're 18 years old or 78 years old, you're all welcome.
Great. Yes, Shilpa, Sana, please do consider enrolling. And same thing with Hindu University of America, just overall, all of our courses are live sessions. They're on Zoom. They're recorded in case you miss a class. You will have the opportunity to catch up in the following weeks. So, Gairavji, that's an answer to your question. So they are live, and we're in a webinar now. This was a presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. We have these weekly webinar of the weeks trying to introduce new concepts, old concepts, bring guests and speakers like Dr. Narayanan to our supporters for free. That's part of what we're trying to do as Hindu University of America, create this platform for Hindus around the world to engage with other like-minded people and build up ourselves in all these different ways and on a range of subjects. So thank you for that. Dharminderji is asking, yoga is a physical exercise or initiated by the awakened Kundalini, right? It's not just a physical exercise. We know it's so much more than that. But if you want to expand on that and maybe tie in your understanding of Kundalini and how that ties in.
See, if I get into this over here, it'll become a little controversial, but I will put it this way. You see, where does the Kundalini Yoga system emerge from? Okay? You see, what happens is, if we look in the chronology of the development of all of these concepts, the Vedantic system, the Vedantic system and the Yoga Sutras are the authoritative and they are as ancient as 5,300 or years old, or as old as that, okay, or more. But on the other hand, the emergence of the Hatha Yoga system comes after the Buddhist period in the Indian civilization, and that goes back only about 1,000 years or so. And so the Hatha Yoga system is heavily influenced by Buddhist thinking. Now, what happened is, when after the Hatha Yoga system, when the Tantra elements were brought back with the influence of the Hatha Yoga and the Buddhist system together, the Kundalini system was framed in a different way. Okay, so when people talk about this Kundalini rising with forcible practice of Hatha Yoga and things like that, that has emerged in a much later time, and it is because of this, every time we have questions, we go back to a few systems which have greater authenticity. Yoga Sutras and the Vedic system, we get into as the authoritative places. And there are some guidance that are available from other systems like Kashmir Shaivism. So what we see in modern day description of Hatha Yoga and Kundalini systems, we need to take it with a grain of salt. Perhaps with a big grain of salt.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Vijayaji is asking for the name of the book again. Maybe a link also to that.
If you want to look at the Amazon site, we will give you the link.
And for the course, that's going to be the required, but you're going to provide the PDF. Is that correct?
No, I'm going to provide the PDF for the Yoga Sutras, but this will be the text outside the Yoga Sutras for the rest of the course.
Okay, great. All right. Any other questions? Now is your chance to ask Dr. Narayanan any other questions, or in the university questions if you have any questions for us.
Okay. Did you get the Amazon link, Ankur? Okay, here is the Amazon link for those who want for the book. Yep. So you'll find the book over there.
Great. And Raj is asking, is there any advantage to do this yoga course before becoming an Ayurvedic advisor? So we at HOA are launching an Ayurvedic health counseling certificate. And I think there's a little bit of overlap. So Rajji is...
Yes. Actually, I'm going to say something that may sound very profound for Raj. The thing is, you see, in the traditional systems of Ayurveda education never begins unless the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali has been fully covered. In Kerala today, even there, they follow that. And what is very interesting is, I have a very good friend, Dr. Vijay Jain, who was a practicing surgeon who actually went and learned Ayurveda from India. And he went for some health reasons, first to Dr. Sunil Joshi from Nagpur, who is a very well-known Ayurvedic person. So he went to him and he got healed, and so he asked Dr. Sunil Joshi, will you teach me Ayurveda? He told him, before I can teach you Ayurveda, you have to go and learn yoga. Only after that I will teach you Ayurveda. So that probably answers the question for Rajeshri.
Great. Yeah, okay. Let's get to our closing comments. Thank you everyone for joining today. And I hope you will take this course. As this last question said, there's so many applications. It permeates so many different parts of Sanatana Dharma. It is at the core of our, if we want to use the word Hindu, we're fine. We know it's the difference between an endonym and an exonym, what we call ourselves, what other people call us. But that's part of being a Hindu in America, right? So at Hindu University of America, we are glad to bring folks like Dr. Narayanan to you and present so many different perspectives and views, including in courses. So with that, let me hand it to, if I can say, Rajanji, to give some closing comments to our audience today.
Well, the thing is, you see, I really like them to talk to me. And so unless people ask a question, it doesn't give me a quick this thing. But given the few questions that got asked over here, all I can say is yoga system is for everyone. It is the underpinning of the spiritual element of every religious system. And of course, it is the anchor of Sanatan Dharma. Okay? And so given that is the case, that becomes the basis of what existence is all about, which means not only the environment, it also the physical health, all the interactions we do in the world. So in other words, for people like the lady who asked, Rajashri, who asked about the Ayurvedic thing, course, one can never truly understand Ayurveda without understanding the nature of existence and how the nadis permeate through, which comes from yoga. And as I was mentioning, in common Ayurveda, the people don't really, the reductionism of Ayurveda makes the Panchaprana as parts of the body, as opposed to how communication happens in the different dimension. In fact, what happens is, in several Ayurveda courses, they don't even teach people pulse reading. Whereas in our master class in yoga, we actually teach people how to do pulse reading. So this may be the this is the kind of an overarching element. This is the overarching element to understand every aspect of existence, every aspect of healing, everything about the living your daily life. It's all about that. That's what the masterclass in yoga course is all about, to understand who you are and how to go about living your life.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for our webinar on yoga concepts and really focusing on our master class in yoga concepts. Thank you, everyone. We'll send the recording of this webinar to everyone who registered. We look forward to seeing you next time at Hindu University of America, maybe in class or at a webinar. Namaste. Dhanyawad.
Namaste, everyone. Thank you.